"You're not invited," Ryan told his mother the night he handed out wedding invitations. Linda Walker, widow of James Walker and owner of the family's beach house, didn't beg. Weeks later, Ryan called, asking to use it for his honeymoon. Smug like the keys were already his. Instead, when he arrived, the caretaker was waiting at the gate with a firm no entry. "I'm curious, where in the world are you joining us from? Drop your city or country in the comments and make sure you're subscribed for all the latest updates. A wedding unites blood. Mine severed it." Linda gripped the phone tighter as Daniel's voice echoed down the line, flat, rehearsed, empty. "Mom, you're not invited to the wedding." For a moment, she thought the call had dropped, that she'd misheard, that he'd meant to say something else, but the silence that followed didn't blink. "It's simpler this way," he added, like that explained anything. She stood by the window of her modest home, the autumn light casting long shadows across the living room rug. Her fingers tightened around the curtain edge, knuckles pale. "Does Kara know you're calling me with this?" she asked quietly. There was a pause. That told her everything. "She's the one who brought it up," Daniel admitted. "She thinks it's best, less drama." Less drama. As if Linda was a soap opera. As if raising him alone after his father's heart attack, paying for his college by working weekends at the clinic, cooking dinner every night, and attending every school play, that had been drama. She felt the familiar sting rise in her chest. But she didn't let it speak. Her voice came out even. "Then I hope it's everything she wants." Another pause. Longer this time. "I didn't mean for it to sound harsh," Daniel offered. "Too late. It's just complicated." "No," Linda said. "You've made it very simple." She ended the call without saying goodbye. The phone slipped from her hand onto the couch cushion. She stood there for a while, heart thudding like it couldn't decide whether to race or brake. Outside, a group of neighborhood kids walked past, laughing in windbreakers and scarves. A couple waved as they passed her porch. She waved back with a smile so smooth it felt like glass. Later that night, she sat at the kitchen table with an untouched cup of tea and a faded photo album. The first page held a picture of Daniel at 4, wrapped in a beach towel, sand stuck to his cheeks, standing beside his father. Behind them, the beach house. Their beach house. She hadn't been back in years. Not since her husband passed. But she kept the deed, maintained the roof, paid the taxes every spring. Before he died, he'd made her promise one thing. "Protect the house, Lynn. It's your sanctuary." And his inheritance, if he proves worthy of it. Now Daniel was building a new life and leaving her out of it completely. A few days later, she saw the neighbors packing gifts into their car. "Off to the wedding," Mrs. Halpern called cheerily. Linda smiled and waved again. The tea in her cup remained cold. She didn't tell them she wasn't invited. She didn't tell anyone. The ceremony came and went. No phone call, no photos, no flowers. But exactly 7 days later, her phone lit up with a new message from Daniel. "Hey, any chance Kara and I can use the beach house for our honeymoon?" Linda stared at the screen. No hello, no apology, just assumption. Before she could respond, a second message arrived. This one was from Kara. "It's perfect for us. Quiet, private, beach view. Just need the keys and alarm code." Linda set the phone down slowly. Her mouth was dry. They hadn't invited her to their union, but they wanted access to what that union had excluded. Her home, her husband's memory, her sanctuary. She reached for the photo album again. This time, she didn't cry. She turned the page and began to plan. A week later, Daniel texts, "Can we use Dad's beach house for our honeymoon? They closed the door on me, but wanted the keys." Linda didn't respond to the message right away. She let it sit there on her screen, glowing with entitlement. "Any chance Kara and I can use the beach house for our honeymoon?" No greeting. No "how are you?" No trace of the son, who used to bring her wild flowers from the backyard. She scrolled to the second message, this one from Kara. "It's perfect for us. Quiet, private, beach view. Just need the keys and alarm code." Just like that, as if they were reserving a rental on the coast. As if she were a concierge. Not the mother they'd just cut from the biggest day of their lives. Linda placed the phone down carefully on the kitchen counter. Her tea had gone cold again. She stood in the stillness of the house, sunlight slipping across the floor like quiet judgment. A familiar ache pulled at her chest, the same one she felt when Daniel moved in with Kara and stopped calling as often. The same one she felt every Christmas he couldn't make. But this was different. This wasn't neglect. This was gall. Her eyes drifted to the small wooden box on the bookshelf, the one that held the last letter her husband had written before he passed. She opened it with slow fingers and unfolded the paper. Protect this house, Lynn. It's your sanctuary. And one day it's Daniel's, when he's ready to honor it. She hadn't shown that letter to anyone. Not even Daniel. She thought he'd grow into it. But now, he didn't just disregard her, he disrespected the very legacy he wanted to sleep inside of. She could have said no, could have refused. But as she stood in the silence, something colder settled into her bones. Not rage, not revenge. Resolve. Franklin, she said calmly, do I still hold full deed ownership of the beach house? Yes, ma'am. Transferred solely to you after David's passing. No liens. Not a one. And Daniel, no legal rights to it. Not unless you change your will. She nodded, even though no one could see it. Good. Just needed to be sure. Franklin hesitated. Something I should know. I'll be taking a little trip out there, just for a few days. Well, enjoy it. It's a beautiful time of year down by the coast. Linda smiled faintly. It's about to get even more meaningful. But that evening, she finally replied to Daniel's message. Not a lecture, not a guilt trip, not even a question, just a single curt response. Yes, you can. She imagined Kara grinning smugly at her phone. Got what we wanted as always. Let them think it. Let them pack for paradise. Let them walk straight into the past they tried to bury. In the attic, Linda pulled down a small leather folder filled with documents, photographs, and something even more delicate, a bundle of old letters David had written during his last few months, ones she'd never shown Daniel. They weren't angry letters, they were love letters, to her, to their son, to the house, and they were filled with truths Daniel had long chosen not to hear. She placed them in a separate folder, then packed a bag. She wasn't sending them away, she was inviting memory home. They expected comfort. I prepared consequence. The prepared consequence. Linda hadn't visited the beach house in nearly 2 years, yet the moment she stepped onto the wraparound porch, it greeted her like no time had passed. Salt air brushed her cheeks, and the faint cry of gulls echoed from the horizon. The wind smelled like her husband's flannel shirts used to, ocean, sun, and quiet strength. She unlocked the door and stepped inside. It was clean, but tired. Dust clung to the windowsills, and a thin film of time lay across the floorboard. She moved through each room slowly, touching walls, smoothing curtains, letting the silence stretch. Then she rolled up her sleeves. She spent the next 2 days preparing the house, but not like a host, like a curator of truth. She dusted every photo, for the day he forgets what family means. Before leaving, she made one final call. Mark answered on the second ring. Linda? It's time, she said. If you're still willing. His voice warmed. Been waiting for that call, for 10 years. Do you remember the house alarm code? David's birthday. I never forgot. She smiled. I want you there when they arrive. I need a witness. Not to protect the house, but the memory of who it belonged to. Mark hesitated. You sure you want to be that close to the fallout? I won't be there, she said. But my husband's words will be. Mark's voice was low, steady. I serve beside David. I'll serve his memory too. Between them, a note, coffee tastes different, where truth lives. Brew slowly. Mom. Then she stepped outside, locked the door behind her, and walked down the path without looking back. The house wasn't just ready. It was waiting. A message from Daniel, just pulled in. This place is amazing. A minute later, a second one followed. Bit dusty, but the view's killer. Linda placed her phone face down and sat by the fire in her own home, far from the waves. She closed her eyes and waited. The doorbell rings. Daniel and Kara arrive. They came for paradise. They walked into memory. Kara followed close behind. Suitcase wheels rattling across the tile. Ugh, it smells like history. Daniel chuckled. It's beach air, plus probably some dust. My mom hasn't been here in a while. They wandered through the rooms, Kara tossing her sunglasses onto the kitchen counter, glancing around like she was appraising a rental property. Well, the view makes up for the curtains, she muttered, pulling open a set of blinds. Beyond the living room windows, The ocean shimmered beneath the afternoon sun. Calm, unbothered, infinite. "This'll work," Kara announced. Daniel ran his hand across the banister as they headed upstairs. "We used to come here every summer growing up. Dad called it the Whitaker Fortress." Kara raised an eyebrow. "Bit dramatic." "No," he shrugged. "He was dramatic, but he loved this place." Kara flopped onto the bed while Daniel scanned the room, slowing when his eyes landed on the framed photo on the nightstand. Him and his dad, years ago, beach wind in their hair, matching smiles. His throat caught, but he said nothing. Next to it, another frame, his parents on the porch, arms around each other, eyes full of a happiness he barely remembered. Kara scoffed. "Why are these here? Who decorates a honeymoon suite with their dead relatives?" She stood and turned both frames face down. Daniel turned them back. "She probably thought we'd appreciate it," he said, though even he didn't sound convinced. Kara rolled her eyes and moved to the study down the hall. She opened the desk drawer, searching for spare chargers or menus, but stopped when she saw the neatly stacked bundle of letters. "Babe," she called. "Your mom left something weird." Daniel appeared in the doorway, still holding the photo. "What is that?" Kara held up the bundle, shaking it like junk mail. "Letters. Tied up like she's in some war movie." Daniel took them gently. His brow furrowed as he read the top envelope. "For the day he forgets what family means." His heart thudded once, deep in his chest. He pulled the twine loose. The paper smelled faintly of cedar. His father's handwriting danced across the page. Unmistakable, unfiltered. He began reading aloud, voice low. "Daniel, if you're holding this, then you've lost sight of what matters. I don't blame you. Life is noisy. People whisper in your ear. But I hope this brings you home." Kara snatched the letter from his hand. "Okay, this is manipulative as hell." He grabbed it back. "Don't. They're guilt bombs, Daniel. She planted them so you'd feel sorry for her. She didn't write them," he said, eyes never leaving the page. "He did." Kara scoffed. "Even worse, letters from the grave. Come on." From the doorway, a low voice cut through the tension. "They weren't written for you." Kara spun around. Mark stepped into view, arms folded, military jacket still zipped, silver hair wind-tossed. "And you don't get to tear them apart just because they make you uncomfortable." Daniel froze. Mark gave a nod. "Hello, kid. Been a while." Kara narrowed her eyes. "Who the hell are you?" "David's best friend," Mark said simply. "And the man making sure this house stays sacred." "You're what?" She laughed. "I'm the reason you're not burning those letters in a fireplace right now." Daniel looked at the pages in his hand. "Why are you here?" Mark's eyes softened just a little. "Because your mother knew you wouldn't listen to her." He nodded toward the desk. "But maybe you'll listen to the man who built this house with his bare hands. And wrote those letters, knowing you'd forget why." Daniel sat down slowly, bundle still in hand. Kara stood stiff beside him, arms crossed. "Start with the first one," Mark said. "You owe him that." Mark steps in saying, "Those letters aren't yours to hide. Dead men can still speak." Outside, the waves rolled in slow and rhythmic, like distant applause for a moment that didn't deserve it yet. Kara hovered behind him, arms still folded, visibly irritated. Mark stood near the doorway, silent, unmovable, not judging, just present. Daniel cleared his throat and read, "Daniel, if you're reading this, your mother did what I asked. She held on to this place even when it got heavy, even when it cost more than money. She protected it, like she always protected you." His fingers gripped the page tight. "You were still little when I made the decision to keep this house. Your college fund wasn't even built yet. She said we could sell it and start over. I said no. I said, he'll need this someday. He'll need a place that remembers him when the world forgets. You were our future. She was our strength. You forgot that. I hope you remember now." Daniel stopped. The silence that followed was thick, like the ocean air had come inside and settled on their chests. Mark spoke quietly. "He started writing those after the diagnosis." Daniel looked up. "You mean?" Mark nodded. He knew it was coming fast. But he didn't want pity. He wanted permanence. Kara snatched a letter from the pile. "This is absurd. This house should have been yours already. She manipulated you with guilt, and now she's throwing ghost stories at you. Mark's eyes narrowed. That's not guilt. That's legacy. Daniel opened a second letter. The envelope dated just weeks before his father died. Your mother never told you about the second job, or the time she sold her ring to pay your tuition bill when financial aid didn't come through. She's not the kind to make noise about sacrifice. That's my job. So here it is. Plain and permanent. You owe her more than holidays. You owe her a seat at your table. Daniel's shoulders hunched. Kara scoffed again. None of this changes anything. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut sharp. You weren't there. You didn't see what she gave up. I'm here now, Kara said, stepping toward him, annoyed. And she's using your dead father to control you. Mark's voice rumbled low. Watch your mouth. Kara glared. This is emotional sabotage. No, Daniel said softly. This is truth. He walked outside, letter still in hand. The porch boards creaked beneath his steps. As he made his way to the shore, feet dragging through sand, the wind kicked up. As he reached the edge of the surf, the sun had started its descent, gold bleeding into blue across the water. He sat down in the sand, unfolded the letter again, and read it in silence. The waves didn't comfort him. They echoed him. Tibok in Dao Kill. Tibok, inside the house. Kara paced. This is ridiculous. She's playing you. Mark said nothing. She knew exactly how this would go. She's trying to make you feel like garbage, just so she can force her way back in. Still, Mark said nothing. Kara turned toward him. Are you just gonna stand there and say nothing? He looked at her flatly. I'm standing here because David asked me to. And what about what I want? You wanted the house, he said. You didn't want the history. Kara's jaw clenched. Down by the water, Daniel stared at the place where the waves met the sky. The letter clenched in his. Daniel storms out to the beach, letter in hand. Waves don't drown shame, they echo it. Tibok. Daniel stood ankle-deep in the cold Atlantic, the wind tugging at his shirt like a hand trying to pull him backward through time. The letter, his father's voice on paper fluttered in his fingers. He didn't dare let go. Not yet. Behind him, footsteps approached fast and sharp, crunching in the sand. Kara, seriously, she snapped. You're letting some dusty old letters ruin our honeymoon. He didn't turn around. His eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. They're not ruining anything. They're revealing it. She huffed. God, you sound just like her. That made him turn. Like who? Your mother. Manipulative, passive-aggressive, always the victim. Daniel stared at her, chest heaving. She's been alone for years, Kara. She raised me by herself. Scrubbed toilets when I was sick, took a second job when my scholarships fell through. Did you know that? I didn't. Not until now. Oh, please. That's her version of history. No, he said louder now. That's his. My father's. The man I wanted to become, who wouldn't even recognize the son I've been. The wind whipped harder. Kara crossed her arms, unaffected. She didn't want to come to our wedding, that's the truth. Daniel's laugh was bitter. No, you didn't want her there. She flinched. Excuse me? She didn't say it, but I see it now. You nudged me, over and over, called her difficult, embarrassing, simpler without her, right? She's divisive. She made everything about her. She made everything for me, he shot back. And I traded her in for comfort. Silence fell. Only the waves dared to speak. Kara stepped closer. So what? You're choosing her now? After everything? He looked down at the letter, then back at her. I'm not choosing her over you. I'm choosing truth over lies. Kara's eyes narrowed. That's what this is about. Some guilt trip from the grave. No, Daniel, it's about what I've been running from. Then let me make it simple, she said, voice hard now. It's me or your mother. The words landed like stone. Daniel blinked once, then twice, and then slowly nodded. Thank you, he said. She frowned. For what? For making it easy. Oh. He walked past her, heading toward the house. I'm packing my things, she called after him. I know. You'll regret this. He stopped, just before the dunes. I already do. All of it. From the porch, Mark watched the entire scene unfold. He didn't speak, didn't move. He let the young man walk past him and disappear into the house. Kara followed minutes later, stomping up the stairs, dragging her suitcase with the drama of someone used to slamming doors behind her. Mark stepped inside and looked at the living room wall, a portrait of David and Linda from their younger years. The glass caught the setting sun just right. "You were right to wait, old friend," he muttered. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, suitcase open, staring at the two framed photos on the nightstand again. This time, he didn't turn them away. He picked them up, studied them. His father's eyes, strong, knowing. His mother's smile, tired, yes, but still hopeful. A long breath escaped him. He reached for his phone. Kara shouts, "It's me or your mother." Too old. They'd seen worse storms than her tantrums. Daniel stood quietly near the dresser, folding his clothes into the open suitcase. She paced like a fire looking for something dry to catch. "So that's it?" she barked. "You're just crawling back to her now? After everything we planned?" He didn't answer. "Say something." Daniel looked up, calm, measured. "What do you want me to say, Kara? That I'm sorry for finally realizing what you are?" Her mouth dropped open. "Excuse, I let you convince me to cut out the one person who never asked me for anything, just so you wouldn't feel second place. I thought that was compromise. It was cowardice." Kara laughed, sharp and venomous. "Don't act like you're some noble little martyr now. Your mother used you your whole life." Daniel shook his head. "No. She raised me. You used me." She stepped forward, jabbing a finger toward his chest. "You think she loves you. She loves control. You think this is all some righteous awakening. No, this is you being manipulated." Again, he stared down at her finger, then stepped back, and said it, quietly. "This marriage was a mistake." Kara froze. The silence that followed was different now, not tension, but ending. Gipleeing. Gigtheeing. She blinked fast, fury rising. "So what? You're divorcing me because of some old letters?" "No," Daniel said. "I'm divorcing you because you mocked my dead father. Because you told me to choose between my mother's love and your pride. You're weak." "Maybe," he admitted. "But at least I'm no longer blind." Downstairs, Mark leaned against the kitchen counter, listening to the footsteps pounding across the ceiling like thunder. He sipped his coffee and nodded to himself. "About time, kid. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you are," she snarled. Daniel didn't flinch. "Then tell them this too, that I chose truth when it finally knocked." She shoved past him, stomped down the stairs, and slammed the front door behind her. Mark didn't move. He just nodded at her once, and locked the door after she left. The house felt still again, not empty, lighter. Daniel wandered into the study once more, sat in the same chair where he'd opened the first letter. He stared at the stack on the desk. He hadn't even read half of them yet. He picked up another, untied the twine, and let his father's words guide him again. "If your mother is alone now, it's not because she failed you. It's because too many people forgot what she carried. She doesn't need rescuing. She needs remembering." Mark stepped into the doorway, clearing his throat. "You okay?" Daniel nodded, eyes still on the letter. "Yeah, for the first time in years I think I am." Mark crossed his arms. "What now?" Daniel folded the page carefully. "I have to face her." Mark nodded. "Then you better not show up empty-handed." Daniel looked down at the stack of letters. "No," he said. "I'll bring everything." Daniel stood at the edge of the walkway, facing the house he'd once called home. The same home, whose door he'd quietly stopped walking through long before the wedding. It hadn't changed much. White shutters, stone steps, and the same hanging porch swing that used to creak under his weight as a teenager sneaking back after curfew. But this time, he wasn't sneaking. He was asked. He held a small box in his hands, not a gift, but a collection. The letters, the photographs, and the apology he wasn't sure he deserved the chance to give. Inside, Linda heard the soft crunch of gravel under cautious footsteps. She moved to the window and peeked through the blind. "Daniel." She didn't flinch, didn't smile. She walked to the door, opened it, and stepped outside. Arms folded, eyes guarded. Daniel froze halfway up the steps. "Hey," he said, his voice thinner than he meant it to be. Linda gave a small nod. He took another step, swallowing hard. "I'm not here to explain, or defend. I'm just here to tell you the truth." She said nothing. Daniel held out the box. These were Dad's letters, all of them. About you, about us, about this family. Linda's eyes flicked down, then back up. "Still guarded." I didn't know, he continued. What you gave up, what you held together, what you carried after he was gone. I didn't see it because I didn't want to. The wind stirred the bushes near the porch. Daniel's voice cracked. I let someone else convince me you were a bird, when really, you were the reason anything held together at all. She didn't reach for the box. She didn't invite him in. She just asked one question. Why now? He took a breath. Because Dad finally said what I couldn't hear from you. Linda studied his face. He looked older, not just worn, changed. Where's Kara? She asked flatly. Gone. And now you're here. Daniel nodded. Not because she left. Because I did. That landed differently. It wasn't groveling. It was truth. No, Linda said softly. I'm letting you explain. Inside, the air smelled like cinnamon and old books, just like it always had. Daniel stood awkwardly in the foyer. Linda took the box and placed it on the coffee table. She sat, folded her hands in her lap, and waited. He sat across from her, uncertain. Silence settled between them like fog, thick, slow, and heavy. I read every word, he said finally. Dad saw you clearer than I ever did. Linda glanced at the box, then back at him. Words are easy, Daniel. He nodded. I know, I don't need a speech. I don't have one. She tilted her head. Then what did you bring me? Daniel's voice didn't waver this time. Time, labor, patience, chores, errands, repair work, neighbors to face, shame to swallow. I brought what I should have brought years ago. For the first time, her shoulders eased. Not much, just enough. She looked out the window, then back to her son. Prove it, she said. Then she stood up and walked into the kitchen. She didn't slam a door, she didn't hug him either. She let the silence stretch, but this time, it wasn't rejection. It was an invitation. Daniel sat alone, in the living room, the box between his hands. And for once, he didn't speak. He just stayed. She says softly, prove it. Apologies are words. Redemption is work. The next morning, Daniel was up before the sun. Linda entered the kitchen to find him already there. Sleeves rolled up, coffee brewed, and a screwdriver tucked behind his ear. He didn't say good morning, didn't ask for forgiveness, just poured her a cup and set it gently on the table. Then he headed outside to fix the sagging fence gate, the one she'd given up trying to close last spring. She watched him through the window for a long moment, then took a sip. Still black, just how she liked it. The days that followed moved slowly, like weathered film reels on an old projector. Daniel stayed, not just in the house, with her. He didn't ask to be coddled, didn't demand praise. He swept out the garage, repaired the broken drawer in the hallway, took her car for an oil change without being asked, cooked dinner twice, nothing fancy, but edible. One night, he made meatloaf, just like his dad used to. Linda didn't say a word, but she finished her plate. One afternoon, while clearing out the shed, Daniel found an old box marked Neighborhood Barbecue, 203. Inside were photos, sun-soaked snapshots of smiling faces, paper plates piled high, Daniel in a Spider-Man shirt, gripping his mom's hand. That evening, he walked next door and handed Mrs. Grayson, now widowed herself, a photo of her and her late husband, dancing barefoot in the driveway. Oh, Daniel, she whispered, holding it like porcelain. Your mama kept everything. She kept everyone, he replied. Later that night, Linda stood at the doorway of his childhood bedroom, now freshly cleaned and reorganized. She watched him place a photo of David back on the bookshelf. You really are staying? She asked. Daniel looked up. As long as you'll have me. Linda didn't smile, but she didn't walk away either. By week's end, the silence between them had shifted. No longer tense, just quiet, comfortable, two people learning how to exist again without defenses. Daniel walked into the house one afternoon, holding a crumpled piece of mail. She filed for divorce, he said simply. Linda raised an eyebrow. Quick turnaround. She also did an interview. Online tabloid. Said you manipulated your way into destroying our marriage. Linda didn't react. I'll shut it down, he added quickly. I'll make sure everyone knows the truth. She sipped her tea. You don't owe anyone that. Not anymore. But you don't deserve this, he insisted. Linda looked at him, calm, composed. I've lived through worse than gossip, Daniel. His shoulders slumped. I'm sorry. I know. Mother-in-law from hell. How one woman manipulated her way into her son's marriage and destroyed it. The photo beneath it was of Linda, taken years ago, cropped and sharpened to make her look stern, unsmiling. Kara's interview had hit the entertainment blogs like a brushfire. Accusations of manipulation, hints at financial exploitation, claims that Linda turned her son against his own wife with emotional blackmail and guilt. None of it true, all of it strategic. 2 mornings later, Linda opened her front door to 3 strangers holding microphones and fake smiles. Mrs. Whitaker, any comment on the recent divorce? Is it true you locked Kara out of your husband's beach house? Are you using your son for a comeback narrative? Linda stared at them for a long moment, then shut the door without saying a word. Inside she leaned against it, not shaken, just tired. Daniel stood in the hallway, fists clenched. I'm handling this. Linda looked up. How? His voice was firm. By telling the truth. That night, he posted a video. Just his face. No script. No filters. My name is Daniel Whitaker. I want to talk about my mother. He talked for 5 minutes about the woman who raised him. The sacrifices she made. The way he failed her. I pushed her out of my wedding because I thought loyalty meant silence. I know now. Loyalty means truth. And I won't be silent anymore. He didn't name Kara. Didn't need to. The video went viral. Not on gossip sites. On community boards. Family forums. Groups where people knew that kind of mother. That kind of love. That kind of love. Within days, everything flipped. Messages flooded in. People shared their own stories. Neighbors came by just to say, "We're with you." Even local news picked it up. Son defends mother after public smear. Linda became the quiet face of dignity under fire. She didn't hold press conferences. She baked. She gardened. She waved to the mailman. And people started waving back. And people started waving back. But Kara wasn't finished. A knock came one morning. Sharp. Official. Daniel opened the door to a courier. The envelope inside read, "Notice of civil complaint, emotional distress and character defamation, filed by Kara Lynn Whitaker, against Linda." This is insane. Linda took it calmly. She's desperate. She's cornered. She's lying. Linda looked him in the eye. So we'll tell the truth. Linda joined him, carrying 2 mugs of cocoa like it was any other evening. He looked up. What if this gets worse? She smiled gently. Then we'll stand taller. He stared out at the ocean. I'm scared she's going to twist everything. She already did. Linda said, and you still came back. He looked at her then. Really looked. I'm sorry it took so long. She didn't say I forgive you. She didn't need to. She just handed him his mug. She tried to sue silence. Silence had receipts. The courthouse smelled like bleach and dust, and something older, pride. Linda stepped through the metal detector, wearing a navy blue suit and pearl earrings that once belonged to her mother. No drama, no statement, just presence. Daniel walked beside her. Not as a boy needing defense, as a man ready to defend. Across the room, Kara sat with her attorney. Glossy hair, stony eyes, the confidence of someone who believed headlines could substitute for evidence. She didn't look at Linda. Linda didn't look at her either. The case was simple. On paper, Kara claimed emotional distress, that Linda deliberately inserted herself into the honeymoon, that she orchestrated a coordinated effort to sabotage a legal marriage, that the letters and photos in the beach house were psychological warfare. The judge, a stern woman in her late 50s, glanced over her glasses. You're suing your ex-mother-in-law for letting her dead husband speak. Even Kara's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, we have evidence that not only debunks these claims, but paints a picture of sustained manipulation, not by my client, but against her. He presented the letters, authenticated, handwritten by David Whitaker, with matching dates, signatures, and content. He presented affidavits from neighbors who'd seen Linda alone on the wedding day, quietly gardening. He played Daniel's video statement. The courtroom went still. Daniel took the stand last. I didn't just invite my mother back into my life, he said. I begged her, because I saw what I'd done, how I'd let someone erase my family in the name of convenience. He paused. My mom didn't sabotage our marriage. The truth did. Kara shifted in her seat, eyes burning. The judge turned to her. Do you have any evidence of psychological harm caused by Mrs. Whitaker? Kara's lawyer fumbled. Only her actions. The beach house setup. The framed photos. The judge held up a hand. That was her home. That was her husband's home. She let you stay there. You don't get to rewrite history just because it makes you uncomfortable. Kara's jaw clenched. Dow. Linda didn't say a word through most of the hearing, until the judge asked her directly, Mrs. Whitaker, do you have anything to say? Linda stood. Not tall, but steady. I gave them the keys, she said simply, to a house I built with love. If that love made them feel shame, that was never my intent. But maybe it was necessary. The judge nodded. Thank you. Plaintiff to pay all legal costs. Kara stood in shock. Daniel turned to his mother, whispering, It's over. Linda shook her head. No. It's behind us. There's a difference. Whitaker, any comment? She paused, then said softly, Love lasts longer than lies, and walked past them. Daniel moved back in the following weekend. Not into his childhood bedroom, but into the guest room. Linda didn't ask why, she just handed him clean sheets and a to-do list. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't passive aggression. It was structure, something they could both rely on. The early days were awkward in the way all fresh starts are. They bumped into each other in the kitchen, reached for the same cabinet, misread silences as judgment. But every evening, Daniel showed up at the dinner table. Some nights he cooked. Some nights she'd. One night, they ordered pizza and laughed when the delivery guy asked if they were the beach house family. Linda smiled for the first time in a long while. On Sunday, Linda pulled out a leather-bound journal and handed it to him across the kitchen table. What's this? He asked. My side of the story. He opened it carefully. Inside were pages of journal entries, everything she'd lived through in the past 10 years. Raising him alone, selling David's tools to cover college tuition, hiding overdue bills so he could focus on school, sitting alone on the porch, the night of his wedding, wondering what she had done so wrong. Daniel couldn't speak. He just kept reading. That night, he went out to the porch, where Linda was knitting, like always. I never thanked you, he said. She didn't look up. I didn't do it for thanks. I know, that's why it mattered. Daniel offered to repaint the beach house. She hesitated. You sure? I need to, he said. Daniel sanded down the porch rails, while Linda sat in the shade, reading from one of David's old fishing logs. In the evenings, they sat side by side with coffee, watching waves roll in like time forgiving itself. One morning, Frank, the neighbor who'd known them for 30 years, showed up with a tray of lemon bars. Thought I'd stop by before the whole damn town finds out you're speaking again, he grinned. Linda chuckled. They'll find something else to whisper about soon. Frank leaned in. Let 'em whisper. Second chances don't come around often. He was brainwashed by his mother. The draft read. She staged the beach house to guilt him into leaving me. He showed Linda. Her jaw tightened. But her eyes stayed calm. Let her burn whatever she has left. Linda said. We're not flammable anymore. Daniel discovers Kara trying to sell false stories to tabloids. She tried to profit from ashes. We turned them into fire. Daniel didn't knock. He just walked straight into Linda's home office, laptop in hand, brows furrowed. She's doing it again, he said, trying to sell another interview, this time with fake text messages and emails. Linda didn't flinch. She set her book down and reached for her reading glasses. Show me. He opened the laptop. On the screen, leaked drafts, email threads, and a dollar figure, Kara asking for 5 figures in exchange for exclusive proof that Linda orchestrated the entire divorce. Linda read it all silently, then calmly asked, Is our lawyer still on retainer? By noon, Linda's attorney had sent 3 cease and desist notices, one to Kara, one to the media outlet, and one to Kara's so-called source, whose name turned out to be Kara. The publisher dropped the piece before it ever went live. By evening, Kara's reputation online had begun to rot in real time. Forums, comment sections, and even former friends calling her out for targeting a mother with forged lies. Daniel scrolled quietly, stunned. Linda just sipped her tea. Why aren't you angrier? He asked. She shrugged. You don't pour gasoline on a dying flame. You just let it choke itself out. The next day, Mark stopped by the beach house, toolbox in one hand, pie in the other. You hear about the tabloid mess? He asked. I lived it, Daniel said. Mark grinned. You lived it better.